Section 2.1 Hebrew Months and the Feasts. The appointed times of Yahweh. There are 7 feasts that were specifically given to the Israelites by Yahweh at the time of the Exodus. The Jewish people also have other traditional feasts like Purim and Hanukkah, but the original 7 were created by Yahweh himself along with the Sabbath. They are all mentioned in Leviticus 23 and can be seen on Table 2.1. Table 2.1 Jewish and Gregorian dates. The first column on the chart shows the original biblical names for the months. Usually, this simply means the ordinal number of that month, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and so on. A few months had special Hebrew names which described something about that month. Abib means tender and probably referred to the first shoots appearing. Ziv or Zeph means brightness and referred to the blooming of flowers. Ethanim means permanence, and I think this refers to the feasts that take place in the 7th month. And finally, Bul means rain. The 8th month was the beginning of the rainy season. However, during the Babylonian exile, the names of the months changed, and these are the names that are in the second column on the chart. Throughout the rest of this book, these are the names I will use when referring to the feasts, because these are the names that are still used most often today. The last column shows the months on the Gregorian calendar. Now the first 3 feasts happen all together in the month of Nisan, which occurs in March or April. The first of these is Passover. It is a one-day feast that happens on the 14th of Nisan. The second feast is unleavened bread. This is a 7-day feast which begins the day after Passover and continues for a whole week. The third feast is called First Fruits and is also a one-day feast. It occurs on the first day after the Sabbath during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, or more simply, the Sunday during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The fourth feast is the Feast of Weeks. It is a one-day feast in the month of Sivan, which occurs in May or June. To find this feast, one counts off 7 weeks, or 49 days. The next day, the 50th, is the Feast of Weeks, sometimes called Pentecost, which simply means the 50th. And then the last 3 feasts happen all together in the month of Tishri, which occurs in September or October. The 5th feast is the Feast of Trumpets. It is a one-day feast and occurs on the 1st of Tishri. The Day of Atonement is also a one-day feast and occurs on the 10th of Tishri. The last feast, the 7th, is the Feast of Tabernacles. It is also a 7-day feast and begins on the 15th of Tishri. And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, and say to them, The feasts of Yahweh which you shall proclaim, holy convocations. Even these are my appointed feasts. 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of rest, a holy convocation. You shall not do any work. It is a Sabbath to Yahweh in all your dwellings. These are the appointed feasts of Yahweh, holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their appointed seasons. Leviticus 23, 1-4. The underlined words in the verses above are all actually the same Hebrew word, moed. It means appointed time, appointed season, appointed feast or meeting, and appointed signal or sign. It means all of these things. Yahweh's appointed feasts are times that he set, and they are signs or signals for us. This same Hebrew word is used repeatedly throughout the books of the prophets to speak of the signs, time, and season of the appointed end of the world, especially in Daniel. Yahweh wants us to know about his appointed times, and he gave us 7 feasts and a Sabbath to point the way. I am not alone in believing that the 7 feasts and the Sabbath that were given by God in Leviticus 23 reveal the appointed times of the Messiah for both his first and second coming. They were created to be and still are signs of the coming of Messiah. Therefore let no one judge you in food or in drink, or in respect of a feast, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbaths, for these are a shadow of things to come. Colossians 2. Most Christians realize, at the very least, that Passover was fulfilled by Jesus when he came and died as our Passover lamb. In fact, the first 4 feasts of the Jewish calendar have already been fulfilled, each on their precise appointed day, but we are still awaiting the fulfillment of the final 3 harvest feasts. In the next few chapters, you will read a summary of the feasts and their significance regarding the Messiah. Please understand that I cannot do justice to their incredible depth in such a short space. I encourage a deeper study of the feast to enrich your understanding of the Bible. When I describe each feast, I use the Jewish names for the months, because the feast dates are incredibly significant, and they shift a little year by year on our calendar. On the Jewish calendar, the feast dates stay the same. There are a lot of dates and details mentioned in the next few sections, and while I've tried to make it as clear as I can, it may still seem a bit confusing. Please read through and hang in there, because the revelation about Jesus in the feasts is amazing. Just one final note before we move on. The years of Jesus' birth and death have been much debated over the centuries. The sheer amount of supporting evidence provided for each date can literally make your head spin. Throughout this study, I used the dates of 7 BC as the birth of Christ and 27 AD as the date of his death, because they seem to fit the biblical data best. If you would like to read my reasoning behind this, see Appendix 4, where I give a more detailed account.